Hey guys, how are you? Welcome to the vlog. Name is Steph. Sorry I haven't been putting out too many vlogs as of late. I've been onboarding a bunch of schools, so it's kind of a busy time of the year for me, so it's difficult for me to get around. But everything we discussed before, the new business course, etc., is going to be happening, I think, starting next week, hopefully. I think I should be done with the back office work, if you will, by then. All right, so I want to do a quick commentary on Jon Jones, UFC light heavyweight. And I'm not a big UFC fan, although I do watch some of the key fights. Like, I'm going to watch this Mayweather-McGregor thing this weekend, for sure, since I used to be a martial artist for a long time. Anyway, so I wanted to comment about this Jon Jones thing. He apparently has been caught doing steroids again. And this brings up a question that I wanted to put out there. Should people who are caught doing steroids, should they be banned for life from the sport? Now, some of you may think this is radical, and maybe it is radical, but there is an argument for banning them for life. And let me explain something that a lot of people don't realize about steroids. The conception is that when you do steroids, you get this huge performance gain, that's for sure. And then if you go off of them, then you're off of them and everything's cool. But it doesn't work that way because, well, let me just give you a background. When I was 18 years old or 19 years old, I forget now, I got a blood disease, and it was a pretty bad blood disease, and they put me on major steroids for about a year I think it was, like major steroids, high doses, heavy-duty stuff that like Ben Johnson, famous Olympic runner from Canada, used to hit his records and so on. And here's the thing about steroids. I started taking the steroids, and it was for my blood, but I was still training and doing martial arts at the time. And at that time, for whatever reasons, myself and my training buddies, we would film each other. We would have these sets, these forms that we do, our sparring, etc. What happened was, when I was on steroids, the rate in which I would improve was incredible. It would be like 1 month would be of training on steroids would be equivalent of 6 months or so if you weren't on steroids. The gains were incredible, because if you think about training at its core, it's about lots of repetition and the healing time between you doing a rep. So you train really hard, you push the body, you push the muscles, so you're tearing the muscle fibers, you're realigning the body, you're adding to the muscle memory, there we go, through repetition. But when you do a heavy duty workout, there's a rest period, which is very, very important. So what steroids does, steroids accelerates the healing process by a huge amount. I remember my doctor at the time was saying, off the top of my head, he was saying that the rate of healing is accelerated by 1,000-fold. So instead of taking 5 days to heal, you heal almost instantly. And this way you can go back and train again super hard, get those benefits, accrue those benefits, then you heal right away because you're on steroids, and you go back again. So in a very short period of time, when you're on steroids, you can progress super quickly. And that's exactly what happened with me. We were filming, and you could see from week to week, I would do like, every week would be like a huge improvement. And people were like, oh my God, this guy is improving so much. He even got the guy filming saying this. It was astonishing to watch how quickly I was evolving my physical skills because I was on these massive doses of steroids. And here's the thing. When I came off the steroids, because I solved my blood problem, about a year later, whatever, I had maintained most of those gains. So I was off the steroids for the longest time. But because my body had been driven there, because I had taken my body to that extra high level, it pretty much stayed with me. It goes off a little bit, but then if you train, it's there, because anybody who trains a lot knows once your body has been to a certain place physically, once you're able to run that 10K in a certain time frame, once you're able to bench press your own body weight, et cetera, the body remembers that. And when you've trained in the muscle memory from thousands of repetitions that you're able to reproduce so much more quickly because you're on the steroids. The body remembers that. You have that in you. So, in effect, even if Jon Jones stopped doing steroids for 2 years, he will have, and comes back and fights, he will have the gains that he had accrued as a result of having done the steroids. It's effectively, if he were a boxer, it would be like surgically implanting steel into your knuckles and then say, oh, you can't fight now because you put steel in your knuckles, but a year later you go back into the ring and you still got your steel in your knuckles, right? The advantage is still there. It's for life, really. And I can tell you that with lots of experience. Now, let me just point out something. When I discovered, when I was doing the steroids, it was, again, it wasn't for performance. It was because I had a pretty bad blood disease, and I did it for that. And when after a few months of, 3-4 months of training, I would lift up like a bucket of water to do mop the floors. I would have these big traps. It was incredible at how performant you are. And I'll give you one story to give you an idea how impactful steroids are. I was doing the steroids, and I was, again, for my illness, and so I was about this far away from my splits. My splits, I would have been full splits, another like 6 inches. Now, and I was like sitting there. So I remember one day, I was in my place, and I just started doing my splits. I just started bouncing. And then I could literally hear the tearing. I could hear the crunching, the tearing. And amazingly, within 15 minutes, boom, I got my full splits. Now, this is something that could take months or you could never get otherwise. And it was like, wow. I remember saying to myself, oh, wow, this is unbelievable. And even though I was hearing the popping, the crunching, it wasn't painful at all. So I did that. I got my full split. And then I said to myself after doing it, I said, this is going to hurt tomorrow. I'm going to be in pain tomorrow. Next day, it was like nothing ever happened. Like nothing ever happened. And I had the split, etc. So that's just a very real example of what taking steroids can do for an athlete's performance and how the effects of the steroids endure long after you stop taking the steroids. So I put that question to you again. Should somebody like Jon Jones, who has now repeatedly, apparently, according to reports, has been caught doing steroids on multiple occasions, and I would argue he has now accrued, he has benefits now that are permanent, that are basically gotten through cheating. Because when you take steroids, you are cheating. There's not essential, there's no messing around here, you're cheating. So you have to ask yourself that. Should he be banned for life? Now here's the other question. Like we discovered with the Olympic athletes, as far as I understand, most of them take steroids. So everybody's taking steroids anyway. It's just some people get caught, some people don't. That's one interpretation of reality on the ground. I don't know for sure, but anecdotally from people I've spoken to, that seems to be the case. So, problem with steroids, people can get very sick, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there, see what you guys thought. And that's it. Bye-bye.